Thanks so much, Jonathan, for hosting a great conversation again and for all of your help. Convening people who care about the community and the issues we face. They are plentiful, but so are our amazing resources. Natalia, you did a great job she filled in at the last minute. That was awesome. I will say before I jump into my remarks that it is such a privilege to serve with people who are so interested in collaborating. John Gettler was where I was last night, and I told the story of my cherished colleague Don Frank saying about 6 months ago, you know, when you were running for office and you were talking about all this collaborative problem solving, I thought it was a bunch of bullshit. But I see you really mean it. And what's more important than whether I mean it or not, these colleagues who are smart and committed, and you mean it. So what do people need to know? They need to know that the town of Jackson is part of the state and the country, and Jonathan foreshadowed my remarks. Sales tax collections for the state of Wyoming right now are down 17% for FY16 for 6 months. The mineral tax revenues are down 35%. That's going to trickle to us already, just estimates of several $1 million impact to our community, social services, budge slide remediation, for instance, and lots of the things that we partner with the state on. So while we're ahead in sales tax, which is great news for a community that's 70% budget reliant on sales tax, we are going to be facing declining revenues, and a lot of people are going to suffer a lot more than we do. So while we scramble for funding, I want to keep this in mind, and I want you to too. We are lucky. While Campbell County is facing a $24 million budget shortfall for the same period of time, Teton County is up $2.4 million. So, you know, I was thinking last night when I was working at the Chamber of Commerce and still moonlighting as a waitress, I attended my first fundraiser for a friend of mine who was undergoing cancer treatment. And I bet all of you can remember your first fundraiser like this. It blew my mind. We raised, the community raised $100,000 for our friend Paul Carter in 4 hours. And I remember thinking, wow, those poor suckers on Shell Creek, all we give them are casseroles. Because in many communities in our state, you know, the resources that we get access to in Teton County just aren't there. So we're lucky. The single biggest challenge, I bet you all think I'm gonna say housing and transportation, but I'm not. The biggest challenge in my mind as we stretch to maintain the community feel is that we stop being addicted to our positions, that we stop working so hard to be impressed and get really excited about being, or excuse me, we stop working so hard at being impressive and instead seek to be impressed by other people and their ideas, especially those who have different ones. This is obvious stuff, but it's really hard to do, as you all know. It's something that we're working very hard on as your public servants. Criticizing and being defensive, grabbing the easy quote, being divisive, that's low-hanging fruit. What's hard is coming to the table and listening with true openness to someone you don't like and don't agree with. That's how we maintain community first. The single biggest opportunity right now is long-term funding for community priorities. Natalia laid out some of those: housing, transportation, and the safety of our community rests with the remediation of budge slide. Quick show of hands, how many of you plan to support the sales tax for community priorities if we get a good plan together? How many of you in November would support that? How many of you would support a different kind of tax in November or sometime for housing and transportation? Okay, thank you. We've got a little work to do, but by the end of today, I hope the candle works for you and a lot more hands go up. Kumbaya, Jonathan. That's the next speaker. So very quickly, Natalia mentioned the Housing Action Plan and the ITP. We're going to focus on that. I want to also invite you guys to help us innovate. I recently met with a group of Jackson Hole natives, young professionals now in our community who grew up here. They're engineers, they're teachers, they're small business owners. They're amazing. And they said, here's what we need. We need help with the down payment. We can handle the monthly payment, but we can't crack the code for the down payment. We have looked at shared appreciation mortgages. We've looked at pools for more down payment assistance. We've got to come back to that table. Considering the Grove, which is an amazing asset for our community, and I can't even tell you the numbers. Can you guys? But I know that 44 families live in the Grove now, thanks to the leadership of many in this room in the Teton County Commission and Housing Authority. The subsidies there were $330,000 a unit. If we could do down payment assistance, and it's $150,000 or so, I'm told, per unit, and in exchange for that, we get a deed restriction for employment. You gotta be an employee in Teton County to get that house. That's something I'm interested in looking at. You know what else struck me about these young people? They didn't care about the investment, like so many of us were taught to think about our homes as investments. They care about housing security. So they're willing to invest in our community and say, don't care about the windfall that might come when I sell and cash out. They just want to be here. And that's the kind of person I want in my community. I bet you do too. Finally, what's the one thing? Jonathan asked us, what's the one thing that we want to focus on, that I'd like help focusing on? It's problem solving with civility and good manners. Appreciate what we have. We have so much. We spend a lot of time talking about Champaign problems, like where we're going to put the dog park, or if the pathways are being maintained perfectly. And I don't mean to criticize, but honestly, these are high-class problems. We've got people sleeping in shifts in beds. That's something we got to tackle. Our healthcare and social services are going to be hit hard. We've proven we care about our people, so let's show up together. Let's continue to prioritize. And let's keep in mind with some appreciation that we are absolutely empowered to solve the challenges we face. Thank you so much for allowing me the deep privilege of serving you all. And Jonathan, it's just such a pleasure to see you succeed year after year. Thank you.
Thank you.